I'd like to introduce you to Nick Vari, one of the performance and guitar tutors at ICMP. Nick's not only got 10 years of experience in the industry, but he's also a multi-instrumentalist. He's going to be telling you more about his journey and how he became a session musician, and he's also going to give you lots of helpful tips and tricks on learning to play the guitar. Have fun.
Hello, my name is Nick Vari, and welcome to video number 1 of 3. I am a guitar tutor at the ICMP London. I'm glad you have decided you want to pick up an interest in the guitar. It's a beautiful thing. In this session today, we're going to be running through my personal story, how I started with music. We'll be talking about different types of guitar: acoustic, electric, the amps and what the amps can do, different settings, how to get different sounds. I'll be introducing you to some of my favourite gizmos and what these actually do, and some of my stories, some of my favourite gigs and moments in music. I was very much surrounded by pop and folk, ABBA, like I said, the Beatles, and folk artists such as Mary Black, Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul and Mary. I was very lucky to be in a musical family. We weren't necessarily the Von Trapps, but my parents are incredibly musical. One of my first memories is seeing Bjorn Again at the Royal Albert Hall, and my brother got to go up onto the stage of the Royal Albert Hall. So I was like, wow, this is incredible. That was my first taste of real live music, and I still love ABBA. I started technically when I was about 6, and I started on the piano. I did it for about a year, and I stopped, enviously watching my sister get better at me. I loved listening to the radio. I would listen to the radio when I got back from school, hours on end. Anyone who is a 90s kid will tell you that part of the best bits of growing up at that age was having a tape, if any of you guys remember that. Recording your favourite tunes and making effectively your own mixtape. My life changed at around the age of 12. My best friend at the time had recently got into rock music, and being in close proximity to him, he passed this on to me. So he introduced me to bands such as Green Day, Offspring, Blink-182. The first album that really hammered home the guitar and all its power was Nevermind from Nirvana. I went to his house, and in the corner of his room was a black guitar. I asked, can you teach me something? And he said yes. And the first thing I ever learned was this. Come As You Are by Nirvana. Needless to say, as soon as I pressed down that fret and I played 2 notes after one another, my life changed completely. My dad had 2 acoustic guitars. What I would do is I would actually sneak them out of their room. So I used to sneak his guitar out of his room, and I would practice all night sometimes. It was a completely new thing to me. It was something that I could explore. When I was about 13 and I'd been sneaking guitars out for about a year, I very shyly went to my parents. Mum, Dad, I got a secret to tell you. And they said, you've been playing the guitar, we're not idiots. It was very kind of them to buy a gift for my 13th birthday of a Aria Strat. This was about £40, and a little test amp, a Marshall test amp, which was about £50. For the next 2 years, maybe 3, I spent the whole time while at school, getting through school so I could get home and play guitar. And I spent the whole days and evenings learning my favourite rock tunes. Like I said, mostly Nirvana tunes. I also have a cousin who is incredibly gifted at the guitar, and he would come over a couple times a year, and he would teach me little bits of songs, and I found that incredibly inspiring. It was my own journey, and I loved the discovery of all of this stuff. I'm a big believer in being curious. Be curious. Search your favourite music and don't be afraid to give it a go when you pick up the guitar for the first time. I started getting lessons when I was 16, and I'd formed a couple of bands by this time. Of course, as you can tell, they didn't go on to become chart-topping, world-touring bands. 18, 19, I went to the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, which was started by Paul McCartney. This was where I really separated my path. I spent most of the year composing, sitting down with the guitar or the pianos that they had in their facilities and writing and exploring harmony. I'm a big harmony geek. I studied there for a year. I decided that actually it was more contemporary music I wanted to go down. That's when I went to the Institute of Contemporary Music Performance, the ICMP, in London, and I did my music degree there. After that, it was the big bad world. I've fronted my own bands. I played in many function bands, and I've had many sessions live and in the studio. And every time there's an opportunity to learn something new, meet new people, and have a great time playing and making, hopefully, great music. It takes time, it takes practice, but it's so rewarding, and it's a beautiful thing when you can sit down and play some of your favourite tracks. I decided that I wanted to become a professional musician over time. There was no set day where I said, I'm going to be a professional musician. As I started to accumulate skills, there was an opportunity to do it. And I knew that I wasn't cut out for a typical lifestyle. It's happened over a period of time, but when I made the transition, it was soon after I left uni. Over time, those gigs accumulate. You become more well known in the circles. One thing leads to another, and you can start to chase that dream, so to speak. I was writing my own stuff that, hey, I'm suddenly a musician. I even registered to be self-employed. A typical day as a musician will hopefully be you waking up. All of us wear many different hats. It can be something of a balancing act, a juggling act in itself. To start off, I will set certain aspects of my playing that I want to improve on. This could be just improvising around 2 chords, G to C, let's say. Now, something that I'll do is I will put on a loop pedal, and I'll explain a little bit of this, and start to explore these 2 chords. Now we'll go on a little bit longer, and I'll get more fine-tuned with that. Maybe there are certain notes within the chords I want to focus on. Maybe there are certain rhythms. Then, if it's a day where I'm teaching, I'll start to plan those lessons and all the concepts I want to get across. I'll be composing for various projects that I've got going. If there's a gig, I'll have to go to the gig, and I'll arrive for 7 with my equipment, good to go for something like 8 o'clock, and I could be out the door for 11:30. So it's very varied. A practice session can last anything from 15 minutes to 2 hours. A lot of it depends on how much time you have in the day. Everybody's different. Some people will want to get to practicing very regularly, but potentially will be better at just doing 15 minutes here and there. Others will prefer to sit down for hours. It's okay to set your own time frame. Just know that in the early phases, the more you put in, the more you will get out. Sometimes just making small adjustments to what you want to achieve can actually end up yielding much better results. As a singer-guitarist, a warm-up should always be appreciated. And I certainly notice the times on gigs if I don't have time, or maybe the space, a room somewhere to warm up. Sometimes, perhaps, if that's the case, you spend the first few songs warming up, which is not a good way to go. So try to warm up before. I like to do a few technical exercises to get things going, such as this, which I'll be showing you in later videos. Maybe just some strumming, just some rhythm, just get that body moving, get those fingers moving, get those hands moving, get the mind engaged. If I've needed to learn a few songs, I don't cram them on the day or the day before. I listen to them a week, maybe more in advance. Just listen to them every day, once or twice, have a little playthrough. That if you get to that song during a set, during a gig, you're not panicking. There are loads of exercises you can do on the guitar. It could be anything from training your fingers to become more independent. It could be anything from creating better spacing. Perhaps you want to focus on the picking hand a little bit more. There isn't one, but there are always go-tos that work. Another key aspect to your playing that you want to try and get in straight away is training your rhythm. Get a metronome up on your computer. This could be on your browser. You can search metronome in Google. Set it to a lower number, something like 60 BPM, beats per minute. Once you have a few chords, just take your time. Now this may appear a little bit easy, but it is great practice and you should always use a metronome. My favourite two shows, and it's very difficult to choose one, and they're both at Glastonbury. The first one being Rolling Stones. It was just such an incredible moment to be part of. It's the Rolling Stones. They are a part of rock and roll history, and it was just an amazing atmosphere on the field, on the main stage. My second, and part of this, the reason it's my second is because it was so recent. It was actually last year at Glastonbury, and it was a punk band called Idols. And they are a band who are very aggressive, but have an amazing ethos. I was at the front, it was incredibly busy, and I spent the whole thing getting crushed, and it was glorious. Favourite gig that I've ever performed on, however, was in Brazil, on tour with my original band, Lowly Hounds. It was in a place called Chapecó. Originally, we were going to get cuts from the gig because we'd been told that they hadn't sold enough tickets. However, the manager of the band that we were on tour with persuaded the organisers to let us in. When we were there was torrential rainfall, and we were told that if we went on the stage to sound check, we would be electrocuted. So we couldn't sound check for a very, very long time. We hadn't even had a chance to shower, so we quickly whipped back. We were expecting it to be very quiet because the ticket sales hadn't been great. However, when we went back, it was full as far as the eye could see. People in the front row knew all of the words that I'd written in a small flat in North London, and it was the most incredible experience. One I'll never forget, and that was by far my favourite gig. Finding your sound on the guitar. Let's talk about the fundamental differences between the acoustic guitar and the electric guitar. I get asked a lot, what's the difference between the two? Can I play the same things? And absolutely, yes you can. They have different roles, however. The acoustic guitar is a great one for just strumming through your songs. If you want to just pick up and play and you tend to lean towards softer music, and the acoustic is a really, really great place to start. There are many different brands of acoustics. I would start off with brands such as Tanglewood and Yamaha. These are really great, affordable acoustic guitars. If you're much more interested in rock blues, maybe even country, metal, anything that needs a lot more volume and a lot more beef, then the electric guitar is the way that you want to go. This is the electric guitar, of course. This particular model is called a Fender Stratocaster. Guitar makes and brands are very much like car dealers. You have your main dealers, Toyota, etc. And underneath that, they have all the different types of cars that they have. And it's the same with the guitar. The most well-known and popular brands are Fender and Gibson. Famous Strat players, Jimi Hendrix, Mark Knopfler. You may want to explore Squier guitars. They are the slightly cheaper version of a Fender Stratocaster, or a Strat we call it for short. But don't be put off by that word cheap. It doesn't mean bad. It's just a more affordable model. If you want something a bit more rock and roll, Epiphones, which are almost like the cheaper version of a Gibson guitar. Famous Gibson players are guys like Slash, Jimmy Page. These are great places to start for electric guitars. When it comes to acoustic guitars, a really great place to start is either Tanglewood or Yamaha. Again, really great sound for very, very affordable price. What I would say is that while it's affordable to go for very, very cheap options on places like Amazon for like £20, it's not a great idea. The guitars aren't going to be crafted very well, and ultimately they won't be very satisfying to play. Let's talk about the electric guitar and the pickups. So the electric guitar works in mysterious ways. These guys here are called the pickups. This switch helps me to select which one I want to use. When I'm on this guy here, this is called the bridge pickup, as this area is called the bridge. And when I've selected it, I get a much brighter sound. On the flip side, if I go to this pickup here, which we call the neck pickup, and I'm going to do it by flicking this up here, we get a very warm, almost dull sound. In the middle, which is somewhere, of course, in the middle. Put it in the middle, somewhere around there, and I like that more warm sound, even potentially warmer. On the amp, we can set the same equivalent to bright or slightly darker, and we do that by certain knobs. So we have a treble, a mid, a bass. If I turn the treble all the way up, it's going to sound very bright. And let's just put the middle up, very bright, so very high. So it starts to lose a bit of the bite. And then we have bass. I like to have this to medium, and I'll put the mids at about 6 and the treble about 7, and we get this sound. Okay. I would recommend starting with a 15 watt. My first was a Marshall. There are also Orange, and these will be great places to start. Here are some gizmos and gadgets for the guitar. These are called pedals, and I'm going to run through just a couple of them and just some ones to get you started. The idea behind a pedal is that you are able to switch between sounds just by stamping on them with your feet. This one is a tuner. We want your guitar to be in tune. Very important. There's nothing worse than an incredibly out of tune guitar. But if you want something a little bit more exciting, this is called a distortion pedal. When I first got a distortion pedal at the age of 13, it changed my life. I could go from a very clean sound and then I could go into a really aggressive, driven sound. Here's a clean sound. Now I've got some distortion on here, so here it is. Another really popular effect on the guitar, or any instrument for that matter, is reverb. A lot of amps have reverb built in, but you can also get popular reverbs, the Reflector, or the Hall of Fame. I have, luckily, a reverb built into my amp. Here is my guitar without any reverb. Very dry, and it cuts very quickly. Now, as I turn up the reverb, listen what happens. We could turn that up quite high. How about really high? In essence, what the reverb is doing is it's giving you another aspect of space. When the reverb is really high up, it sounds very far away. When it's a little lower, it sounds like you're in a small room. So here's reverb and a bit of distortion put together. So there's two effects. That's just two of many, many effects that you can use on your guitar to make it sound weird, wonderful, and wacky. But there's other little bits and bobs that you could use, and that's these guys. Plectrums. I often get asked, should I use thick or thin plectrums? And what even is the point of a plectrum? You get a little bit more brightness from a plectrum, as opposed to maybe playing with your thumb. Now that's not always good or bad. Again, it all comes down to style. Some players just play with their fingers. But if I'm doing something like strumming on, electric or an acoustic guitar, I prefer to use a plectrum. I get a little bit more rhythm from it, and that's a personal taste of mine, and I recommend people starting here. If you're going for strumming, I would say start with a thinner pick, something like a 0.7 or 0.8 of a millimeter. If you're looking to play more riff-based music, a pick that's thick is a good place to go. You can get a lot more attack from that. So it really depends on what style you like. There's so many places to look these days, online and offline, believe it or not, for learning guitar. If you like learning from books, Hal Leonard is a great place to start. His brand is incredibly informative. If you prefer online, Ultimate Guitar is where it's a great place to find tabs, and there's a great guitar community there. But of course, YouTube, and try not to take on more than you can chew. Start modest, even if it's just getting a few chords down. That's great. Just start there. Some great players to look at on YouTube: Justin Sandico and Marty Schwartz. They're very popular startup teachers. And when I say startup, I don't mean that offensively. They're great players, but they're just great teachers. YouTube is a great source for backing tracks as well, be it blues or popular songs with the guitars removed so that you can play along. Another great site is guitarbackingtrack.com. Outside of the internet and learning on your own, learn with your friends. Find those around you that are also learning the guitar and share ideas. The friend that showed me Come As You Are, we then spent the next year or even two playing the guitar together. We'd learn different parts of songs and we'd have so much fun putting them together. The great thing about learning and sharing with other people in that process is that you just learn so much, and you learn so much from other people. So I would start by finding friends that are learning and get together when you can. If you can't, of course, in this current climate, look online, FaceTime with them and play some songs together. It's great fun. If you're a little further down the line and you're looking to maybe start a band, or you are looking to go to a jam night and meeting more people, then look online. Hit up social media. There are sites like Vampire, but even just uploading some videos of you playing, or hitting up some friends that are also learning and saying, do you want to jam? Start there. I can't recommend it enough. If you're looking more specifically for a jam, it's always worth writing ahead to the organizer and asking if there's any specific songs that need to be learned. There's nothing quite as daunting as going to your first jam night and a player will throw out a song that you've never heard of. So ask ahead and prepare yourself. Good to see you guys. See you on the next video. We'll be exploring chords, scales, and starting to get you up on your feet with your learning. Come join us at the ICMP blog and the channel for much more content. See you next time.